You have to keep turning it on. To the March 16th meeting of the Town of Warren Zoning Board of Review. The first matter is the roll call and determination that we have a quorum so that we may conduct business. I am the chair, Andrew Ellis. Going down the line to my right is Jason Rainone, Jason Nystrom, Barrett Holby, the vice chair, Michael Elves, the alternate member, and Chuck Thibodeau at the end. The alternate will be able to participate and ask questions, but will not be voting on any matters unless one of the regular members needs to recuse themselves, and we will have at least one instance of that this evening. At that time, the alternate will become a voting member. The alternate may also participate if any hearings are continued to a future date and any of the regular members are not present. He may become a voting member. Just remind everyone here this evening, we try to keep things orderly, and if you have a comment or would like to offer any input, please raise your hand or signal so I can recognize you, and then if it's the appropriate time, we can entertain any relevant comments. So moving into the agenda, first we have the approval of the minutes from the February 16th, 2022 meeting. Is there any discussion on the minutes, or is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes as circulated. Seconded.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. First matter under old business will be application number 22-03 for Modo LLC, the owners, and Rock Oscar LLC, the applicant, for Market Street, plat map 3, lot 74. Request for a special use permit under 3351 to allow a restaurant use in the village business zoning district. Are there representatives here for this application? Please come up. Please identify yourselves by name and your address so that the stenographer can record it. And please use the microphone.
Uriah Donnelly, 97 Child Street.
Janet Moscarello, 97 Child Street.
So give us a little description about what you'd like to do and why you're here before the zoning board this evening.
Sure, we are trying to put it's hard to say exactly what it is. It's not quite a restaurant, but it's a sort of a small plate, we call it a snackery, cafe, I guess, with beer and wine in the building at 4 Market Street.
And so describe a little bit what kind of food and beverage service would you be providing?
So for beverage, it'll be beer and wine and soft drinks, and only bottles, no draft system or anything like that.
What was that?
We won't have like a draft system or anything like that. It'll just be bottles and cans for all of the beverages. The food is it's mostly cold prep, pickles, like smoked fish pate, like things that are cold prep. There are a couple menu items that we're planning that are to be cooked or prepped hot and then warmed up. But it's all through convection and induction, no gas burners or nothing live like that happening at any time.
So there'd be no exhaust fumes,
No,
nothing of that nature.
no, we're not planning on that at all. Yeah, there's like a toaster and like convection oven that's self-venting, that small like you would have at your house, like a toaster oven.
And what do you anticipate the hours of operation for the business will be?
We're planning right now Wednesday through Sunday 4 to 9, maybe Sunday afternoons like 2 to 6, something like that. We're not trying to be there very late at all.
So it's mainly a mid-afternoon, early-ish evening type.
Yeah, like an after work gathering spot kind of idea. It's also a used bookstore. And on the other side of it, as you see on the map, it's sort of blacked out. The collaborative, which I run on Main Street, is going to be using one of the sides as an extension of their art galleries. So it'll be art gallery, used books, snackerinos with some drinks.
So when we're looking at the plans, that's the left-hand side of the plan?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And do you have other existing establishments like this, or is this a new venture?
This is a new venture for us, but we do have a combined around 50 years experience in the restaurant industry, both front and back of the house. I most recently managed Chomp in town and the bar of Chomp, and his second restaurant that he opened in Bristol. For that short time, I was down there as well. And Janet's been at Bywater and Eli's and places like that. most recently.
So you're going out on your own basically to launch this new venture.
Yeah, I think that was the only way that they would pull us back in, you know, like just to do it on our own terms and not for someone else.
Does the board have any particular questions on this application for restaurant use?
Is there any expected increase in trash pickup or delivery? Is there, not trash delivery, but you know what I mean? Is there a dumpster on site? Are we talking about just ordinary garbage bags that will be dealt with in municipal trash or?
The latter, yeah. There's no dumpster, but currently, you know, so we own the building as well as Modo. We're both entities. The tenants are upstairs, but there's each week we put the trash out. There's plenty of room in the municipal trash bins, so it'll just be in those bins and the recycling as well.
Delivery schedule, would this be like hand brought in by you guys on a daily basis? Is there a large truck that needs to find space on Market Street?
Our plan is to keep it really simple, local. You know, we're only going to use one vendor that our neighbor Prica Farina already uses, and so we'll have pretty much the same delivery schedule. They'll be able to pull in and bring a hand truck in through the front door. Outside of that, we're in touch with some local and not so local, like Massachusetts farmers. So that'll be us potentially going there to pick that up and bring it in on as well.
Other questions? Okay.
Parking? I know there's no parking, but
I think they're exempt from it in the
Yeah,
village
in
business
village
district.
district.
And the building basically occupies the entirety of the site.
Correct. Yeah, we're aware of, you know, of the parking potential issue. Although, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily an issue. There's street parking. There's a municipal lot over across from Imago where the Bank of America kiosk is. That
But also
does
pedestrian traffic that potentially want to cater to, I would think.
absolutely that's our main target is the locals and people that'll walk over or, you know, or be on their bikes and be able to lock up and walk over. We're trying to be a really community centric hang, I guess.
so it's gonna have coffee and tea, that stuff, or is it just more beer and soda afternoon?
Correct. Yeah. No. At this point, we don't have any plans for hot beverage service. Just wine, beer, and soft drink.
And have you been in touch at all with the health department and fire department with regard to the regulations you'll have to conform to?
Yes, we had the fire marshal do a walkthrough. He implied that we were good to go. He'll come back with the final walkthrough and give us our capacity. And the health department, we've already received our approval, pending certain things that we have to adhere to, and they're ready to do their 2 or 3 week out walkthrough when we're ready to open. So,
And you have a projected opening?
we're trying to get open in May. We do have a small hiccup with the liquor license, but we're hoping to have that cleared up by that time.
I want to step back for a moment. I'll ask if anyone in the audience has anything they'd like to offer in terms of commentary on this application. Not seeing anyone. Is anyone on the Zoom platform that?
We're not on Zoom.
No one's on Zoom. All right. Then you may step back to the microphone. Are there any further questions or discussion from the board on the application?
The only point I wanted to make was they've got pretty restricted hours they want. Can we give them
Well, we
a
might-
order so they don't have to come back to us in case they can do what they want, but like the ice cream store, we.
I was going to ask the same question,
broaden it out
particularly,
So they can do what they want and they don't have to come back to us if they want to open.
yeah, particularly with the retail side of things, if that wants to have broader hours to make sure that you guys are sort of capturing the right amount of foot traffic, particularly on the weekends. Chuck, suggestion?
Is there a standard we've been using in the town?
I think just keep relying that, the hours can be regulated, well, by town council, at least.
Correct.
Like the license, so feel free to get what you think is appropriate here.
So I said, what is sort of the maximum flexibility you would like to have in your hours of operation?
We don't envision being open like during the week, during the day at all, but certainly the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, maybe more flexibility on those days, particularly when summer hours are busier and we have those fabulous walkabouts in October, that draw traffic, we probably, extend the hours for those types of things. But
So during the week, you want to open at 4 o'clock?
yeah,
Want to give them
Just make
11:30?
Noon?
Exactly. Make it
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is prevent you expand or you decide to do a breakfast or brunch. We're trying to make you not have to come back to us again. That's, you can do what you want.
Yeah.
We're just trying to kill two birds with one stone here.
Yeah.
We're giving you the hours, but you don't have to do it. It's just, you
Yeah.
can go back.
9 to 11.
That's what we stand.
I'd like a warm beer and sardines in the morning at 9.
Yeah, you're just the guy we're looking for.
That's gonna fester. Thank you.
So is it fair to say if we went, 9 AM?
Couldn't hurt.
You can.
You do whatever you
have
want.
that-
We're just trying to cover you.
Yeah, that works for us.
Until what is the latest you would anticipate being open?
10,
10?
yeah,
10, that's good.
10.
9 AM to 10 PM.
Yeah, let's just do that. That way they don't have to.
11,
11.
11
I'm saying
PM?
11. Let's just do 9.
11 p.m.
9 to 11 PM.
That's fine.
We're not night people.
Any other points we want to review with them?
The only other thing I can think of is in the Village Business District, when it comes to food deliveries, I know in the past we've mandated some hours for deliveries.
Doesn't sound like there's any big delivery vehicles coming.
That's the only thing I wanted to confirm. I know you said it sounded like there may be a truck coming that Prika Farina, pretty much uses the same people. Are you guys anticipate? You've all driven around, the village, and there's been a truck taking up half the road. Are you guys anticipating deliveries out of a vehicle like that or something much smaller?
I would imagine that some of the produce and some of the food that's coming on that particular truck that I spoke of is a larger box truck because they do multiple deliveries. And
Good size, but I would say in 6 months of going on Market Street, coming and going from my shop, I've probably seen it twice. So there's not a lot of, what's there now isn't a delivery intensive.
I know, I'm just bringing.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just,
And we could also say, to not disturb other people in the area if we say no deliveries before 8.
I think that's fair, yeah. Would that be okay?
absolutely.
Any other items? So is there a motion on this application?
Make a quick motion. Complicated. I hope. I will, motion to approve application number 22-3, Modo LLC owners and Coster LLC applicants for Market Street, plat map 3, lot 74, request for a special use permit under section 32-1. A restaurant snackery use in the village business zone. Special use will be compatible with the neighboring land uses. There's plenty of restaurants on Main Street and Market Street, and probably be a good fit to fill the space. So I think it's very compatible and will hopefully fit right in. Special use will not create a hazard in the neighborhood. For the same reasons. Main Street a little bit more vibrant. Special use permit will be compatible with the community comprehensive plan. I think the town of Warren would like to see more businesses downtown, so I think that fills that blank. And hopefully the public convenience will be, the welfare will be well served for those that want in fish and beer. Like me, I do that all the time. We like the hours to be somewhere between 9 and 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. It is subject to you're getting the health department all signed off. And like to see no more truck delivery before 8 a.m. Anything else?
Barry, I was suggesting that was on all local state regulations.
Local and state regulations. Yes.
Any other conditions?
Did we do the hours already?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Looking forward to welcoming your business to Warren. So with that, we're now moving to the new business portion of the agenda. The first item under new business is application 22-04, Thomas Drake, the owner, and Kathleen A. Bartels, the applicant, 44 Brownell Street, Plat 16, Lot 182. Request for a variance under 3277 to construct a deck with less than required side and rear yard setbacks and to exceed the maximum lot coverage in the R15 residential overlay district. Good evening. Ms. Bartels, if you just want to identify yourself for the stenographer, please.
Okay. I'm Kathy Bartels. I'm the architect for the project.
And your address is?
It's 37 Brownell Street in Warren. I'm a neighbor.
Very good. So can you just give us a description of what the scope of the project is and why you have a hardship for the purpose of getting a variance?
Sure. This property was built in, we think it was built in 1940. And so the existing house is a cottage, and it is currently exists within the side yard setback. So both the existing house and the garage are within the front yard and the side yard setback. What we're proposing to do, because it's basically a one-story cottage with an attic, and it's currently it's not weather tight for the winter, is the owner would like to build up the second floor. So basically take the footprint of the existing cottage and go vertically. Because the house is within the side yard setback, we have to ask for a variance for that. Additionally, the owner would like to build a second floor deck as part of the renovation and addition project, and a first floor deck that has a trellis on the south and the west side. The additional footprint of the deck, even though it's pervious, it's added to the footprint area, so it increases the footprint so that it goes from 16% to 21% lot coverage. So we're seeking a variance for that. 1% overage.
And that includes the garage that's going to remain?
Yes. I think we counted decks, but we were told. that-
We do count
Yeah.
decks.
Yeah.
We don't
Yes.
count patios or paved
That's
surfaces
what it
that are
was.
at grade.
Oh,
But
I didn't know
anything that is
that.
a quote structure built above
Sure.
grade, we do count as lot coverage.
Okay.
And we don't have any permeability requirements in our current ordinance. So you
Okay.
could pave the entire property and it would count as lot coverage if you so desire, but I doubt. you want that.
Sure.
I'm sure CRMC would have.
So the only additional building area is that second floor addition. And as far as the deck, because it's got a significant southerly exposure and a westerly exposure, you'd like to be able to put a trellis and a deck, be able to step out from the first floor to the deck without a step. So it'll be about 2 feet above grade.
And based on the setbacks, anywhere you added this deck on the side of the house to get access outside, you would be within the setbacks. So the hardship is you're constrained by the size of the lot. And if you want to add this deck, you really have no other options. Is that?
Yes, there's 100 feet from the street. Beyond that is there's a fence and then Mount Hope Bay, basically. But marking off 100 feet and then 35 feet back from that for the rear yard setback is pretty much very close to where the existing house is located. So building anything to the south in terms of a sunshade or structure would be within the rear yard setback.
And at present, the second floor addition is extending existing perimeter walls upward. It's not jutting out further into a setback in any direction, correct?
That's correct. We're taking the footprint of what we think is the original cottage and proposing to go vertically, with the exception of that second floor deck.
Gotcha.
Which is already, what stand out to the lot line of the, it's already 4 feet, so it's not conforming anyway. We're not adding, we're not adding, we're going up, so we're adding to it, but they're not.
You're not making it
Right, we're not
worse.
making.
We're not
it
making
worse.
it worse because they're already living with that, so.
That's right.
And you say that the purpose of this is going to become a year-round residence?
Yes. So it'll be renovated, fully insulated, new heating system, solar panels.
Are there any other questions on the setbacks with regard to variance? I'm going to step aside for a moment. I'll ask if anyone in the audience has any input they'd like to offer on this application. If you have, please stand up. Recognized. I'm not seeing anyone. If you want to come back to the podium. Any further questions?
I think my only question, recognizing that there is no public comment in the room on the application, has contact been made with the abutting neighbor to the east? It appears that there's minimal space at that property line between this house and the abutting.
So that would
Structure.
be this neighbor,
Yes.
I believe. Yes, there has. He did an addition fairly recently and
Oh, okay.
they're sort of good with each other, so. he did.
Did the fire chief sign off on this?
As far as the distance between the houses?
Well, because of twisting.
Yeah.
Well, he's got,
Oh,
well,
the fire. I'm just wondering if he signed off on it.
well, they have to respect all building and fire codes in order to do the project. So, I mean, the plans will be obviously submitted to the building department and the fire department for review. And that certainly could be a, pending condition that they have to comply with. Obviously, all local and state regulations. Has this house already had its cesspool replaced?
Yes, he has a septic system,
He has
so
a-
he is all set.
He has a new compliant septic
Yes.
system,
Yes.
and it's sized to meet the
It
number
is.
of bedrooms. So we're all set with DEM and CRMC.
That'll come.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about the application?
I had extra diagrams in case, but
Is there any other discussion among the board, or is someone prepared to make a motion?
Going once? All right, I will move approval of application 22-04. Thomas Drake, owner, and Kathleen A. Bartels, applicant, 44 Brownell Street, plat map 16, lot 182. Request for a variance under section 32-77 to construct a deck with less than the required side and rear yard setbacks and to exceed the maximum lot coverage in an R15 residential overlay zoning district. In approving this variance request, we will find that the hardship is due to the unique characteristic of the subject land or structure, in so much as the existing structure and its detached garage are already non-conforming for the side, front, and rear yard setbacks. We will note that this hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant. This is an existing structure, and the setbacks are the setbacks. We will note that in granting this request, that it will not alter the general character of the surrounding areas or neighborhoods. This is a relatively densely populated portion of the coastal area of Tuisset. So these types of small cottages close together are relatively common in the neighborhood. And we will note that this is the least relief necessary, in so much as if it were not to be granted, it would be more than a mere inconvenience to the applicant, as they would be unable to expand or convert this property into a year-round property with the amenities that would make it a fully livable residence to the extent to which the homeowner would like to see it realized. We will note that the eventual construction plans must be in full compliance with all local and state regulations, including CRMC approvals if necessary, and going through the proper fire approvals. And we will note for the record that the variance required under the circumstances is for a 35-foot rear yard. Oh, no, sorry. A 28-foot, 10-inch rear yard setback where 35 is required. There was another one. Where did it go? A 4-foot, 1-inch side yard setback where 15 is required. A 31-foot, 3-inch front yard setback where 35 is required, and a 21% lot coverage where 20% is required.
Basically asking for a 1% lot.
1% increase to lot coverage, correct.
Are there any other conditions or amendments to the motion? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is passed unanimously. Good luck with the construction. The next matter under new business is application 22-05, Baptist Church of Warren, the owners and applicants, 16 Miller Street, plat 4, lot 19, with a request for a special use permit under 3250 in order to allow retail office space use within the R6 zoning district.
Mr. Chair, I will be recusing from this matter.
Very well, so Mr. Renone is recusing as a butter. So Mr. Elves now becomes a voting member of the board. So gentlemen, if you want to just identify yourselves, name and address, so it's the photographer.
Yes, Jeff Rose, 151 Seabreeze Lane, Bristol.
Michael Salaman. I live at 49 Ferncrest Drive in Riverside.
And so give us a brief description of what your intent is with this project and what you'd like to do with converting some of this space into the retail office.
What we'd like to do is, we used to have the Lion's Den thrift shop in the spaces. With the COVID, we had to close that down, so the two main rooms now are vacant. So we'd like to try to generate a little income for the church. We looking to get, a realtor is looking to get nonprofits in there to comply with the church's properties. We think we have one in mind now. Company is Energy Marketers Association of Rhode Island. They represent the oil companies locally, like Dudek Oil down the street. And small operation, they take one room, the old, what we called our prep room, and be a two-person operation, part-time.
And then we also have the other side of the property that was actually used for the thrift shop. We'd also like to rent that out, but in the same concept of possibly going with more nonprofit. Would rather support that. And of course, make income from it, but the income is gonna, some of it's gonna be turned back into the fact that we will have to be paying taxes on this property now.
The part of the property is still going to be used for, was it the pastor's study in the secretary's office?
That's correct. Yeah.
So there'll be some church function remaining, but a portion of the property will be turned over for retail.
Right. We also still have AA meet there, and the Alzheimer's group also uses the facility.
Go ahead, Barrett.
Sorry to interrupt. I was going to comment, do you think there will be that much more traffic then? Sounds like it's already a pretty busy little building, or is it?
No, currently they only have 2 employees. We have 15 spots in the parking lot. We're not looking to expand the lot at all. They would only be there part-time, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, as we understand, 9 to 5. But their end time usually varies a little bit. So it won't conflict with somebody's services or the other groups that use it.
To maintain parking for the other activities that occur on the property, because the proposed services won't be happening at the same time as your existing commitments.
The company that we're trying to get into there right now only has 2 employees, which has no foot traffic to come into the company. They work everything through a computer, so they don't have people coming and visiting. So it's not like they have traffic coming in and out of the property all the time.
Yeah, so it's not gonna make the property much more busier than it already is. So what do you mean by retail office space?
Well, it's really just a rental. It's just one small room they'd be looking to rent at this time.
So no retail
No,
sales,
no, we like to keep it quiet.
I don't understand how it got written in as retail office,
All right.
but yeah, it's just, we're just looking to rent the space for general use, not for anything retail at all.
What's the general square footage of that space?
The one room that they're looking, I think I had 464 square feet, so it's fairly small. I think you should have a drawing.
Yep.
Big one's 7.
I think there's a typo on the agenda.
That's what I thought when I seen.
Oh, did I say the wrong thing? Yeah.
The agenda.
Right. Oh, the agenda says retail, but it should say rental.
That's where EMARI is going?
Correct.
And what's the other space that you wanted to lease up?
The large one is the old shop on the western end of the building. That's a large room. And we've already had fire inspect that for all of them, but anyway, he said, if you wanted to split that room, and so you don't get 2 tenants in there, it is doable. The fire system can accommodate that, so we don't have to reach the fire alarm system. It's a much larger room, and at the time had one possible increase. At the time they look like they back out.
But that would also be an office type of.
Yes, sir. Correct. Yeah.
Other specific questions?
I mean, just since we were talking about trash with the last business, is it fair to say that this is, this is not really going to affect your trash flow or schedules?
We take care of that, the trash situation, the recyclables.
We're lucky if we fill up the barrel once a month, honestly. Even the recycling bins, I mean, we're lucky if those go out once a month.
Fair enough.
And I'm assuming there's no major deliveries for these proposed
No.
tenants.
Everything's on, they do everything online.
And what would be the maximum hours of operation to give flexibility to your tenants that you would like to have these business is operating?
Their office hours are somewhat flexible if it's weather related or not, you know, they're in a type of business that they can come in on a Tuesday or Thursday. They've designated Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 5, but they're very flexible.
So if we said 8 to 6, that would
Oh, yeah.
cover.
What does everybody else do there? What are the other offices?
They're vacant right now. A large strip shop.
Well, our own secretary works out of one office.
What
That
about
is-
the Alzheimer group that might come in there? Wouldn't they show up like 6 to 9 PM or anything like that?
Well, actually, Alzheimer's actually meets in the church, don't they?
Once a month.
Once a month. And the AA meets every Saturday night in the Jarrah building.
Okay. All right, so to your point, so 8 to 6 would be, you think that 8 to 6 would be fine, or?
For our rental purpose, yes.
During the week and not on weekends.
Correct. And honestly, that's what we would like to see, because we don't want to see it turn into a 7-day operation.
All right, so if you want to just step aside for a brief moment, I'll ask if there's anyone in the public, the audience here that has any commentary they'd like to share. Not seeing anyone, so you can come back to the podium, gentlemen. Does the board have any further questions or discussion they'd like to present on this application?
I mean, I guess the question for the board I have is, if they put offices in there, should we limit the occupancy in there for parking? Because I mean, that's a tight street down there, isn't it? Still parking doesn't matter. Okay.
But we have at least 12 to 15 parking spots in the lot as it is.
Yeah, but that's all staggered, correct?
Exactly.
That's all staggered. It's like three tier and some of them.
No, it's a single lot.
Yeah.
It's a single lot, three sides.
Well, it's village business, so it doesn't matter. Okay.
But they do have some parking, so it shouldn't be an issue for them.
So the intent, I think the intent of the hours is that it won't interfere with church service and other groups that are coming in, so
Make
the
that
parking.
Clear to the realtor that we don't want any interference on Sunday.
Any other clarifications or questions for the applicants? Is there anything else either of you want to add to your application?
I think that's it.
Just one question, if we get a renter for the former thrift shop, we come back.
I think we're approving the use of it as an office rental space. If you came and had some other function like a restaurant, that would be a different case.
Right.
But we're approving this to have office rental sort of tenants in there. Again, and anything different than that, we need to come back and ask for that to be changed, but it doesn't sound like that's the direction.
No.
Okay, so is there a motion on this application?
Motion, if you'd like.
Okay, absolutely.
Make a motion to approve application 22-05, Baptist Church of Warren, owners and applicants, 16 North Street, plat map 4, lot 19. Request for a special use permit under section 30-50 to allow retail office space use in the R6 zoning district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. We'll clarify that to under section 3250 to allow rental office space.
Don't want to do retail.
Used to. In the R6 zoning district, special use will be compatible with the neighboring land uses. Seems that we've been purchased 12 years, it'll be quiet. A good fit for the building. Special use will not create a hazard in the neighborhood. It's just my calculations have it as about 380 square feet. Is that?
It takes away their pace.
Okay. Won't create a hazard in the neighborhood. It's really just a two-person office. Public convenience will welfare will be served. That will be the case, and it's small enough hardly to be noticeable. Like the hours to be, I said 8 to 6.
The Monday through Friday, only.
And Monday through Friday only. That's really it.
Well, that's a separate application. Yeah.
Depending on
You're
how big,
allowed-
you're allowed a certain size. It's probably fine.
You're probably within your allowance, just have to check. Adding up any existing other signs on buildings on the property to make sure it's not beyond the square footage limitation. And if you have any questions on that, you stop into the building official's office. He can help you with that if you've got a question on what counts as existing signage, how big they're going to need.
Right now, there is no signage on it.
It's the property in totals, or if there's any other signage on them. So you've got the notice board.
Yeah, we got the wayside culvert, plus we also have a plaque about Rhode Island University.
Yeah, I don't know that that's really signage. It's more, it might just be if something says the Baptist church somewhere, that might be the sign. Wayfinding isn't really signage, and a historical plaque isn't really signage. I would suspect you're probably well within that, but you just want to check that if they're going to be adding new signage to the building. And whatever signage they add, there are requirements in the ordinance of what it's made out of and how it is or is not lit and things of that nature. Were there any other modifications to the motion? I'll second that. Second by Chuck. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So your application passes unanimously. Good luck fitting out those spaces for the tenants.
Hey, thank you.
Good night. So Mr. Rainone is on his way to rejoin the board as a voting member, and Mr. Elves will continue in the alternate position. So matter number 3 under new business is application 22-06. The Carrero Family Trust owners and Stephen Carrero applicant, 341 Main Street, plat map 3, lot 114. There's a request for a special use permit under 3247 to allow mixed use in the village business zoning district. So if a representative or representatives would like to come forward, please just identify yourself by name and address.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Carrero. I live at 22 Napoleon Street in Warren. My family and I own the property which sits at the corner of Liberty and Main Street at 341 Main Street. We are here because we are requesting a special use permit to continue using the property as mixed use in the village business district.
So I just have a
Yep.
question.
Yes,
Key word you said was to continue using. Is it not already mixed use?
it is. It is. It
And
is.
the mix is, you're keeping the mix, it's still going to be office and residential.
And residential. Yes,
So
sir.
can you clarify, I mean, why are they here for especially, that's what it
Correct.
is.
So I spoke to building official, Mike, it appears that part of this to clarify the record. There is mixed use currently at this location, but the records don't necessarily back up the use. Therefore, that means applying for it, make it lawful. There's a change in terms of combining two commercial spaces for one vacant lot. Because of that alteration, the endpoint's gonna be. So it's got two purposes, like.
Right? Very good. Yeah, so if you just want to tell us a little bit about what is the current mix of residential versus office, and what are you proposing in terms of? the
Sure,
mix?
absolutely. I think it might be best if you flip to the picture of the front of the building, maybe with all my notes, perhaps. Probably be easier to follow that way instead of flipping through the floor plans. So you'll see a bunch of my notes there, but if you look directly at the building, you'll notice two entrances that are set in. The one to the left, if you walk through that door, to your immediate left is an office. Okay, so it's an existing office right now. And then to the right, there's like a little vestibule in there, a little mud room. So to the right, there's also an entrance to a small studio or efficiency apartment. Okay. The oval door to the right, set in again, that is all a one-bedroom apartment. Okay, on the first floor.
I lost.
Yes, oh, sorry.
So where it says, by state, that's the current office.
Yes, sir.
And then you said there was an efficiency apartment on that one.
That, yeah,
I think the floor plan clarifies it.
there should also be a floor plan in there too.
It looks like the left half of the building is split into two units, one residential and one office, whereas the right-hand half of the building is one single bedroom apartment
That is correct.
currently.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we are proposing to do is that studio apartment, which at one time was an office space before it was converted to a studio, is we want to incorporate it back together with the office to make it one whole office now.
So the first floor would now have two units, one residential and one office, whereas it presently has three units, two residential and one office.
That's correct.
And the rest of the floors of the building, how will you be treating those?
Second floor is existing second floor apartment, and then same thing, it's the third floor separate apartment as well.
And those are all staying.
And those are all existing, yes, sir.
So the request is basically for half of the first floor to be used for office purposes. The remaining half of the first floor to be residential as it currently is, and the other two floors remain residential.
That's correct. Making 3 residential, 1 commercial for the entire property.
And so that is the mix that we'd be approving. If you wanted to alter that mix in the future, you'd have to come back again and request a different type of mixed use for that. But at the moment, we're looking at only one commercial space for the office, and the remainder is all residential.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Board, have any specific questions on the proposed use breakdown?
And you're also gonna have a basement conference room that's connected to the square footage of that as well, right?
Of the office, yes.
Point note that a portion of the basement will also be serving the office.
That is correct. Yes.
And is that portion present? And that portion is presently serving the one office you do have in there now.
Yes,
So
correct.
It's not really a change. The only real change is on the first floor.
Is that studio apartment incorporated now with the office? Yes, sir.
As far as parking goes, it looks like there's a notation, there are 14 spots available, including the garage.
Yeah, 12 to 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that enough for the 3 residential units and the 1 office space?
It is serviced.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's served well with providing ample enough parking. Yes, sir.
Okay, and as far as the office, whatever business is going to go in there, let me rephrase it. Is there currently a business that's already in that office space that's going to be continuing there?
No, sir.
Okay.
Completely vacant.
Gotcha.
And I believe he is in the village business zoning district, so we wouldn't have to put parking stipulations on him, but it is noted that he does have an existing parking lot there to service his property.
You ever put 14 cars in there?
Not all at once, but you can. I could try.
And so the type of business you've indicated it's going to be an office use.
Yes, sir.
So there would be, we wouldn't be expecting any big delivery trucks.
To my knowledge, no. To my knowledge, the highest and best use, I think, for that is what it was before, which is a real estate office, very low, flow of parking. I mean, you do have some parking on the street in the front too, that some folks can utilize, but we would make sure that it would be a very much of a low sort of traffic type of business.
We wouldn't expect a large number of clients or customers coming to this business. It would be more like an individual appointment or something.
That's correct. Yeah, like possibly tax preparation or, perhaps maybe real estate still, but
But at present, you don't have a tenant in mind or anyone under.
no one in mind at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what would the hours of operation that you'd like to have covered for the use of this business space?
I mean, if we were to get a tenant, I would say the normal 8 to 5 would be anything,
6,
yeah, perhaps, but
and would that be 5 or 7 days a week?
I would say between 5, maybe a Saturday too, 5 or 6 perhaps, but nothing that's going to take it beyond a point where it's going to disrupt and disturb the tenants,
So you'd like 6 days per week, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for an office type of business.
That sounds fair.
And if some tenant should come along that those hours are not suitable for, you come back with another application if you need to amend the hours.
Yes.
And if the tenant chooses to put any signage, if it's going to be over the amount that's allowed in the ordinance, you have to come for
Yes.
an application on the sign. Any other specific questions? I'll just ask the audience if anyone in the public would like to offer any comments on this application. Not seeing, yeah.
They better not have.
I figured as much.
I was gonna wait and see where that went.
Yeah.
There's no comment from the public. Do any board members have any further questions or points they'd like to raise with the applicant?
No.
Okay, do you have any other information you'd like to present to us?
No, not at this time.
Okay, so is there a motion on this application?
I will move approval of application 22-06, the Carrero Family Trust owners and Stephen Carrero applicant, 341 Main Street, plat map 3, lot 114. Request for a special use permit under section 32-47 to allow mixed use in the Village Business Zoning District. In approving this special use permit, we will note that this will be compatible with the neighboring land use, as the current function and use of the building is mixed use. This is actually sort of a change of format to the way the building will be used, but the overall mixed use character will not change. It will not create a nuisance or a hazard in the neighborhood. Again, this is the existing way that the building is being used. They have ample parking on site, so the parking for any potential residents or tenants of the office space would likely not spill over onto the street. This will be compatible with the comprehensive community plan in so much as it does allow for a mix of housing stock within the town of Warren and will provide an additional high quality commercial rental space that will be available within the community, and the public convenience and welfare will be served, as all of these both residential and commercial spaces will be available for rent within the community. We will note that the new format for the mixed use space will be a single commercial office rental space and a single residential space on the first floor, a single contiguous residential space on the second floor, and a single contiguous residential space on the third floor. We will note that the hours of operation for the commercial rental will be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we will note that any signage requests for that residential space and the operation, of that commercial space. And the operations of that commercial space will obviously need to comply with all state and local codes and regulations.
And we could also note that the commercial space is also using a portion of the basement.
Yes.
Any other amendments or additions? Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion passes unanimously. Good luck in getting the space ready for attending. And now the final matter for the night, we have an administrative matter. The town solicitor, Tony Sisto, is here to discuss with the board procedures and process for zoning board. Mr. Solicitor, always good to see you. Thank you. Yes, it has been quite a while. Better remember my name is. No. So, better remember the board was full of time to time past. And again. Ben and I worked together on land use matters. And, I've updated the previous ones that I did to reflect current law. And just discuss some procedures to make sure that everything that was you're back. And Maya, you're going to get some actually, we're going to talk about something we're going to add to the package later on. Thank you. I refer to this as I wanted to come to this one because I've done this for other zoning boards that I represent. So I wanted to come on this. And I apologize. I haven't, I don't think I've spoken to anyone in well over a year. Past longer. I think before the pandemic might have been the last time. Yes, and that's part of it, but I haven't had a chance to do it. I know Ben does a fine job. We talk about cases that come before you. I myself haven't had a chance to put into one of them. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to come. So, the first thing I want to start off is just to remind you that what is known as wildlife tradition 5. And that means that what you do is considered to be traditional in nature. And, I know I don't have to tell you that, but there is an increasing body of law about how zoning boards should interact. And the idea behind it was that everybody that comes to it has to get it here. It's difficult because you're volunteer for it. So sometimes what you find is that somebody in Africa will say, hey, I want to talk to you about it. And you have to tell them, no, I can't speak to you now. Have your chance to speak after. And likewise, if a neighbor says something to you, like, hey, I saw that application, that opposed to that thing, it's like, you have to say to them, then come to the meeting again to speak. Right. The first case in that LA Ray Realty was found out, and he wasn't promoting big case, and turned out it was a matter of an appeal, and had in fact this whole ex parte outside the hearing board. But there's been other cases since then, and since that time, since that case, the legislature passed a law called the Equal Access to Justice Act.
And the original intent was to make sure that people could afford it. But some go off the line. You've got to apply to zoning boards. Standard claim is that there was a violation of the Equal Access to Justice Act. And that allows an applicant, if there is a finding that that act is violated, is allowed to get all of the costs on the damages that are involved in the case. You have to be careful with that. So we're done. And it did those last 6 or 7 years. I've been informed as to that. None of my municipal clients have been subjected to that. But how is there a violation for that? It all comes down to whether or not some interested party had an interaction with the board. So you have to be careful with that. And you know, it's difficult. We're in the supermarket. You reach into a box of cereal, and somebody comes up to you, wash it. And says, hey, this thing you got in front of you, what are you doing with that? You gotta say, I'm sorry, I can't speak to you. Try and move away as best as you can. Difficulties when you try to get it. With sale on table oranges, then you have a problem.
Tony, if we have a question, should we ask it now or later?
And while I'm speaking, fire away if you have a question. Sometimes it happens, you go on.
Well, I was just wondering, you're saying not to talk to a neighbor, but I mean, we do our due diligence, we'll go to a site. I mean, I think last month, but perhaps the month before, I walked up to the guy who was putting a porch. And actually, I was talking to the contractor. But anyway, you run into people like that. Sometimes they want to explain what they're doing. And are you saying we shouldn't be doing that?
Yes, I am saying that, Barry, what you do. This is my suggestion and advice. You go out to a site, and I encourage you to go out and take a look. I don't encourage you to go on a project, but I encourage you to take a look at the site. And if someone comes up to you and says, hey, this is something you need to know, you got to hold off. But if you have questions about it, then you like to ask it at the hearing. Because it's all hearing centric. In other words, everything should happen on the record. And that's when the question should be asked. If they have something to say, tell them, come to the hearing and say what you have to say then. It'll be on the record. We have the best stenographer in the state. And let it go there. The difficulty is there's a couple of fronts here. The first thing is you're not supposed to do it anyway. The mere fact that you talk to somebody, that's the problem. But oftentimes happens. There might be a misinterpretation on it. I was out at the site. They said this is what they were going to do. Now there's a problem, and all of a sudden it becomes a question of fact. That's something that you want to avoid. So to me, Barrett, what my suggestion is go out and take a look. Take a look in the neighborhood. If you have questions, write them down. When the applicant comes, ask them there. And then it's all on the record and there's no questions.
And what would be the appropriate course when it's not possible to view the proposed issue from a public street or the sidewalk? It's behind the property and it's not visible in a public way.
Yes. So, and first, by the way, I'm going to say this. Overall, I'm not coming here to say, oh, you're a lousy board, because you're not. You're actually very good. Some boards, they're not decisive. And in those instances, they'll say, I got to tell you, other boards, you take a look at what they do. There's a lot of continuances. Don't have enough information. You didn't provide us with enough. We couldn't see. And, they're very careful, and that's okay too. Sometimes you go too far out. What you can do, if it's impossible to see from the road, if it's a complicated project, if it's a project that you feel you really need to get on the site, what you can do, I'll give you an example. You guys do stuff alone. What's going on? What you can do is you can call for a site visit.
all go. By the way, if you're just taking a regular site visit, just go individually. But if it's something you need to see, just post it. Just say, look, we're gonna go, we're gonna have a site visit. Post it, so that if anybody else wants to show up, abutters, objectors, the applicants, they can come with you. And then you go. I've had site visits that were recorded so that objectors that were there could ask questions, and it'd be on the record. They treated it as a meeting, they had minutes, and they went from there. If it's that type of an application, go ahead and do that. That's okay.
Our minutes, and so if it is an advertised public site visit, are minutes required for a site visit?
Yes, if you're going to take a site visit and the board members are gonna go, there's gonna be a forum. Yes. And, you know, you need to let the public know, so they can go too. And if you're gonna ask questions, I had a site visit about 6 months ago. We all went, the objectors went, they had they were Zooming. It was recorded. And then, you know, the chair would say, there's a question. This is the question, and they have the answer. That was entered into the record.
So I believe on our previous site visits, it has been advertised as a public meeting. But I do not believe any minutes have ever been prepared or any documents document what was said or who attended the site visit.
Well, it'd be interesting.
So I think the good thing to note that if a site visit is scheduled, we would need to arrange for stenographer or clerk or someone
Correct.
to cover that, whether it's by a stenographer or a video recording or some method such as that.
It's gonna be difficult, but I need to go. My recommendation is to have my interview. And what you do is you bring along the Zoom. And, you know, I can tell you Barrington is coming and other communities are coming. It's not, it's cumbersome, but that makes it so that it will be. You know, and I hate to say that, but, you know, this board does not have a history of appeals. You actually get very few. Other boards, they basically say to themselves, every time there's an application, they expect an appeal, they can come and say, you know, that's a good approach to take. Because the one you don't expect, that's the point.
And so with regard to the individual site visits, and I know this has been discussed at several points in my career on this board, when you go to a site, what identification do you have to verify if someone comes up to you and says, who are you and what are you doing here?
No. No, building official has a statutory authority to enter on property building.
So if we're standing in the street, in a public way, and someone questions what we're looking at,
Just have a member of the zoning.
and that's sufficient.
And when they start yelling at you, say, well, this funny meeting is that's what you have to speak. That's what you do. But, you know, there has been talk about amending the legal to allow for zoning board members to have the same right of entry on property. That's building. But, you know, I've got to tell you, it's I'm concerned about that. Some So my advice, get to the street, take a look around, take a look at the neighborhood. If there's issues, it's appropriate to say, hey, you know, we'll have to continue the application. If you want your permission to go on the property, we'd like to take a look. It may be that one member wants to take a look at the property. Say, look, I'm not comfortable with that. You say, look, okay, you go on, make an appointment, you go, you don't have to post that. If another member wants to for that, they can go, but at separate times, just make sure the property owner knows, you know, they don't let out this Sharon.
And so when you go on your visit, if the property owner comes out and invites you onto their property, should you decline at that point because it's not been advertised or?
So long as the property owner doesn't speak to you and says, yes, you can come on my property and take a look at the backyard and where I'm gonna put it,
It doesn't speak about the material
but won't
points.
speak about it, then you find, they say, well, let me show you what I want to do.
So that's gonna be a difficult thing.
Well, it is, because you know what? Somebody, you
They're gonna go on their land and they're just gonna say, hey, walk around. By the way, the back door is open and the safe is, you know.
Exactly, that's why I don't see that working at all.
No, and you know, people don't like people on their property, they don't. Oh, really? And you know what, I gotta tell you, when building officials go on, that's a problem. Sometimes we have to have a good session.
And people naturally will want to tell you, oh, well, I'm putting my deck over here and it's to look at the pond and do this and that, and they're wanting to explain that.
This is the most difficult thing I'm talking about, and that's what it's been. It's tough to someone filing an application, or someone that lives next door that doesn't want it, not to say anything when they see, when they know you. And, you know, you could be at a ball game, be a kid, and it's, you know, it's a parent on the team. That's a hard thing to do, but you gotta do it. You've got to do it.
Not on the site.
Now, here comes the next, this is the main part of what I got to say. You know, when you file an appeal, first thing that they want to do. That is probably 70% of the judges don't really like always looking to say, well, it's not like the back, you're not going to go through the back. Okay, so we're going to begin that. Now, sometimes objectives, that is a tactic. And they know that the application is good ground for it. And what they do, they take the appeal and they'll say, hey, you know what, the findings of fact here aren't sufficient. And what they figure is the case will spend some time up there, then they'll go back down, and that's what the applicant. That's the way it goes. That's problem number one. Problem number two is, you know, typically a law sort of procedure is going to be dealing with this, and they've seen it all in the decision, say, man. So it's something that you need to do, make sufficient findings of that, and they have to be on the record. Now, I'm gonna, for your next meeting, I'm gonna give Maya a cheat sheet. Just, what the standards are for dimensional variance and for a special use permit, but it allows you to mark up the evidence that's going on, so you have your notes, so motion. For this to say, these are the standards that go, from there. Now, you need to make findings of fact on all of the standards. You guys know. But the question is, well, you need to,
I think, well, this is your cheat sheet, isn't it?
yeah, give me the cheat.
Yeah.
You guys get those too?
I think we all have, I think they've all been laminated or whatever.
I have two.
I was going to, just have, so you have.
Unless there, I mean, if there's an update to it, we gladly.
No.
He's gonna give us copies, that's basically.
I was gonna say,
So we
maybe
use
my.
like a worksheet. every
Yeah, like a
single time.
worksheet.
Yeah.
Just so you can, you know, write stuff out. I found that to be helpful. Other board members said that too. So it's there with each application. And it's okay to do, I noticed with your findings of fact of the two applications I heard, that basically what you guys using the maintenance method. Say, here's the standard, here's how the standard's met. Here's the facts that I'm relying on. That's okay. To me, that passes muster. So I think that's okay.
Is there a different way or a different methodology you've seen used before that might be more efficient, or?
You know, to me, the applications go in two categories. First one is a routine application. It's a deck. It's asking for 2 feet. And I think what you can do is just if you have one, just say evidence was, you know, that the neighbors have a similar one. That's fine.
Okay.
If it's a larger application, there's more interest in it, then perhaps you want to cite to the evidence more than just one piece of evidence. what it is. You know, sometimes it's difficult with these standards. I've been telling you that the legislature for years. The hardship is due to the unique characteristics of subject land structure, not due to the general characteristics of the surrounding area, but the physical or economic disability of the applicant, accepting those physical disabilities addressed in the general resolution. Now, how many times have you made the determination based on the evidence that it's on the economic disability of the applicant?
Never in my time.
Okay, typically what happens, and typically what's successful, you say it's due to the unique characteristics of the subject land. What is it? You know, you go from there and you say, this is why it's unique. This is why the application is submitted. Why is the addition on the north side instead of the south side? Well, on the south side, the grade would allow for it. That's what you say. That was the testimony that was brought out. On the second one, is not the result of any prior action of the applicant. It's not a result primarily from the desire of the applicant to realize greater financial.
That one's never made any sense to me.
Well,
Who comes before a board asking for a special use permit to open a restaurant without a desire for financial gain?
Well, here's the thing, because some boards really struggle with this. And I call this the last digit of pi, because they struggle over it. Because let's face it, anytime somebody's building on their property, it's gonna make it worth more money, right? So. What it is, it's greater financial gain. Okay, so let me give you the easy one. Guy has a duplex, right? He can get 3 units, and you can get that. Now, that's going to make more money. It's going to be for financial gain, but he doesn't ask for that. He asks for 6 units. That's a greater financial gain, and it's appropriate for you guys to say, you know, he doesn't push the secondly, the other factors that you take a look at. So it's not just financial gain. You got to take a look at it as a greater financial gain. Okay. Here's the full statement. But you have to take a look at that. I agree with you though. That should be reworded. That's a difficult standard. And some boards really, really struggle with that.
We try to be a little bit more pragmatic with it.
Yes. Alter the general character of the surrounding area. That's fine. I mean, that's easy to do. You just take a look around. And what impact is it going to have on the surrounding area? Now, here's one favorite. Now,
We've had this discussion before, that the lease could be
The lease.
0. You don't do anything. You leave your property alone.
okay, so this is another one that I actually.
Our last applicant only wanted 1%.
Could, I mean, or a 0.5%.
Right.
Yeah.
We could have.
So I actually testified as an expert. And the judge, they asked me how many zoning applications. That's impossible. I represent wards. So, you know, it's how many applications as a solicitor. So I represented wards full time, and another half dozen they called me in on. And then I have my own practice. So I said, that's where I come up with the number. I calculate this rough calculation. He said, yeah, that's a sign of a misspending practice. One of the leading cases of this, and Spoda, what they do is the hobby find these lots that were buildable that nobody really focused on. Spec a house, and we do like 1 or 2 a year. The hobby farm, they make money. We found this last little lot in Barrington that was a buildable lot. And it was at the edge of the plat, and why they platted it out like that, I don't know. But it was a buildable lot, they showed. The problem was, it never got built on, and it want that to. So the order goes to that building. The board said, yeah, it's not the least weak district. So, it's one thing, like, God, they got a small house. They actually said, this is small house should be built. That was part of it. It's not gonna be anything with small house. But being a market will affect the values of the property surrounding area, which I find is like a home. And judge said, no, you can't do that. Least relief. It's the least relief necessary to accomplish the goals of the application. The deck is 10 by 10. I don't think it can be 5 by 5. No. That's not a deck that you can do. So that's what you need to think about this. The extra sentence, the least relief necessary to accomplish the goals of the application. And in order to say no on the least relief necessary, you've got to say that no relief can be had here. It just can't happen for whatever reason.
But if we felt that they want to build a 3-bedroom house, and a 3-bedroom house could fit within the setbacks,
Yes,
and they can reasonably build that within the setbacks, then there may be no reason for it.
that's correct, yes. They want a 30 by 30 deck. The problem is it's the stream. If I was a 20 by 20 deck there, and it's still a useful deck, you can still get to grill out there, you can still have your patio and everything else. That's what you need to take a look at. The favorite one, not a deal, a lot of these, but garage size. Yeah, and a lot of boards have adopted the position that if you go for a 2-car garage, with 24 by 24, which is that it.
Depends if it has 2 separate doors or 1 large door to get the car.
Okay, but what they basically say is the standard for the garage. There's a standard for a garage. You're an architect, you
Yeah.
tell me.
Yeah, there's a size.
It's like 24 by 24, so you're, 38 by 40 garage. Come on, what are you gonna do? So,
Now, unless the person says, I want 2 cars plus a woodworking workshop, in order to accomplish that, then I need 38 by 40 or whatever the case.
so I had an application. And, we had no size. I got a lot of stuff. White, blurted it out. Come back, rats! So, those are the things that you take a look at. What you need to make the findings of fact at all. Least necessary, standard garage is X. And there's no compelling reason why it needs to be oversized, at least it's articulated. So I think that's what you're looking at. It's likewise with the special use permit. The special use permit form is actually more extensive than the special use permit.
Tony, I have one quick question before we move on from the variance. When it comes to the comprehensive community plan, a lot of times we're pretty general with, with what the plan promotes. Should we be more specific, citing, according to chapter X, paragraph X, the town wants more housing, ergo, this is, conforming with the plan. Is there a certain level of specificity or generality okay? Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I do. And I'm grimacing.
Because I don't think anyone wants to have the plan stacked up in front of them, all like 2 feet of it.
I'm grimacing because, Bob said, we're gonna have a new comprehensive plan we have now. So, great. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it's so old, it's like, doesn't even like even answer. That's how old it is. So I generally do not advise that variance on the comprehensive plan. In reality, that comprehensive plan, the key zoning is the future land use map. And as far as I can tell, if Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, the land use map and our zoning map are pretty much there. So I see that section as really a non-issue.
Okay.
In terms of findings of fact. Now, somebody might pop up and say, you know, this doesn't comply with the comprehensive plan. We have a copy here. But I found the Warren comprehensive plan as it's now constructed, and I know you guys are just actually reenacting it, to be very vague. And basically, it's so vague, you can read it anyway. So if somebody ever pops up, times when I've represented the board that's popped up, you know, somebody will cite to one section, just cite to another section and say, yeah, but this section says that, so it kind of cancels out. So long as it conforms to the future land use map, it'll be fine.
Okay.
The use variance might be
Yes,
the higher standard to get to that.
yes. You know, I'm not a fan of use variances. And get a use variance, in addition to all the other standard checks, conventional variance. The last one is you have to say that the application not approved. There can be no beneficial use of the property. And that to me is a next to possible standard to me. I've only recommended once in 37 years to a board that a use variance be granted. And what happens? Somebody has a house and they want to turn it into a commercial use. They want to use variance for that because it's a residential zone. Well, the answer is, hey, you know what? You have a house. That's a beneficial use. So you really can't approve it. I don't know if you get that.
I think we might have done 2 in my time.
I think it was with the same.
The same property.
Yeah.
And the answer is, you know, go to the town council and get his own sheet.
I think that was the
I would
suggestion.
suggest
Yep, at least twice now. Waiting for it to come back.
Now, you know, you can place conditions on your, and I've listed them on page 3, those are the statutory ones. And again, it's very vague on this. Your main one, I think, is minimizing the adverse impact of the development upon the land and neighborhood. And, you know, you can designate exact locations and things of that nature. So I think it also satisfactory installation of maintenance of required public improvement. That's important. Drainage and things of that nature. So you have to be careful on that. I know you guys have it. Water draining from one property to another. Sound use. I'll listen on that. And oftentimes, in the hearing form, there's been lawsuits on the same one subdivision. And after the subdivision developed, somebody that was down grade water on their well was and escape solid legal water line. Found that way, but there's some liability. Yeah, but he did handle that with conditions of this. Here, I'm down there, I'm worried about trees.
And I think in the past, we've also cited that they have to comply with building code requirements for drainage and containment of stormwater on their own property per the relevant state codes.
Yes. Now, 2 things. In addition to hearing applications, you guys are the Board of Appeals, the building official. Have you had any of those?
Have maybe 1 a year.
Okay. That's a 3-2 vote. And, you know, I gotta tell you, it's, you know, you're not doing dimensional variance, standard, special use, so it's slightly different. But I think you do need to just be findings of fact and go from there. Appeals, then the next step is Superior Court. So just make your record and treat it that way. But it's not, there's no standards for that. Basically, take a look at the interpretation of that and determine whether or not it was right or wrong.
In instances where either the code or the state statutes are vague, are you and Ben sort of our go-to reference?
Yes.
Because I know the last time that came through where we were hearing an appeal for the building official, it came down to the definition of demolition.
Yes. Yeah. So I think when there is, typically what happens is an appeal from the building. So we'll be ready for it. And, it comes down to interpretation. I know it comes to pain.
Very infrequent.
Yeah. Okay. Same thing. Just majority vote. And you're not applying for zoning. That on the record. Now, my recommendation on those is it's not a new hearing because it's on the record. We're going to get to on the record later. What you do is you hear from the applicant and then you hear from the planning board and they make their arguments. Then you make the decision on the record.
So in that instance, the applicant is allowed to present why they presented the information, and the planning board is allowed to present why they made their decision based on the record for that application.
And the applicant goes first with their appeal. And basically what they have to say is, this is why the planning board made a mistake on the record. And it's under the Administrative Procedures Act. It was a procedural, that type of thing. But it's not new evidence. If they're saying, we want to put in evidence, on. And then the planning board basically gets up and says, this is why we decided the way we decided. And then you guys go there and get the deal. You don't get many of those, but if you do, that's what you do. It's also known as the planning board.
It's one question, I mean, we talked about it at the planning board, is that we don't have a complete record. Find out because planning board, we have a court reporter, well, on applications.
Yes, I'm sure that they should recommend that. The thing is, there hasn't been a lot of appeals in townspeople. Have all of that.
The only reason I ask for a budget right now, that's reality research.
Absolutely, I'm sorry you brought it up now. I guess probably calculating how much.
We could see around that hard time.
Right. Also, if the meetings are going to continue to be posted on YouTube in a video recorded format, is that also a useful tool to document what occurred?
It is, yes. And I'm going to ask Heidi, do you record them sometimes? Yeah, but
I always do, only because now everything is digitally put out to the entire world, literally. I make sure my transcript is, I sit with it and listen to YouTube, but it won't match because if you have staff that listen to your board on YouTube, you really don't hear a lot of it. So the recording that you're relying on will not be YouTube.
And I think that's been a problem since the pandemic, that the audio system and the Zoom, YouTube interface has never quite worked right. And we've had some potential, I think, open meetings problems where the applicant was on Zoom, but we couldn't get them on the TV, so we couldn't hear them, and it was only coming through the laptop, and we had to sort of relay back and forth what was being said, and it wasn't the most effective format.
Council has approved operating the system, we're waiting on one piece of equipment that's coming to Los Angeles Harbor right now. But we're not obligated anymore to stream them. That's a courtesy.
Yes, sometimes we just can't do that. It's fine, but a lot of towns switch. That's not- But, you know, we're here now.
Yeah.
Uh,
But we may not be sometime in the future.
I understood, you know, you have it.
I think we have to plan for every eventuality.
Absolutely, I think that's gonna be done. Yeah. Just, yeah, when it's not appropriate.
Tony, just one, I know just one more thing on the planning board of appeals. Again, who knows? We may never see one in my lifetime, but if it does come up, is there the possibility for us to remand it back to the planning board if we find out there wasn't? You know, similar to the Superior Court could kick it back to us for further findings. Is that something that can happen if there's a planning board of appeal, or do we just make a decision without?
Yeah, it may be that the applicant either the board say, hey, you know, like, take another crack at it. The difficulty with that is, unlike you guys have, time limits to make decisions. But you pretty much, you hear an application, and it's not gonna take you to make a decision right there. Deadline actually files afterwards. On the planning board, however, they have so many days to make a decision. So if they make a decision and you want to remand it, the question becomes, the clock starting it. So now the applicant's got to start from square one. So typically, if there's going to be a remand, that'll come from the Superior Court, because they can do that.
Okay.
You guys know.
Well, I just figured I'd ask.
So
Yeah.
we're looking for technical errors. If some error was committed in the hearing, not necessarily, we don't think there were substantial findings of fact to support the planning board. We're looking for more of a technical procedural error.
That's part of, that's one of the standards. The other one is a board member can say, they got it flat out wrong. They got it flat out wrong. And here's why they got it flat out wrong. It was the evidence. This is in the record. And that evidence doesn't support the decision at all.
So I guess the question would be, one of the things that we do see on the rare occasion when things get kicked back to us on appeal is that, you know, the judgment of the Superior Court has not supplanted our judgment. They're simply trying to decide whether or not procedurally we did the right thing. They're not second guessing our judgment. In this case, if we see something in a planning board appeal that we believe is inaccurate or misinterpreted, we can supplant our judgment for theirs in that instance.
Yeah, I'll give you the example. You know, the map plan clearly indicates that it's a 5-acre lot. And the planning board decision is it's so many units for a 4-acre lot. They just made a miscalculation. If they can, you know, the applicants can say, well, you know, you can't state in their findings of fact, it's actually this amount of space instead of what they said. Then it goes forward. Sometimes those happen, not often, but sometimes. But sometimes what happens is, you know, the board just says, hey, you know, we don't want this. Like, we don't want to do it. And that's that. And you know, tie it back to the evidence and the record stuff. What I want to get to on just decide to go on that. Is stuff with the record. And when it comes back to you can't say, hey, you know what? That's not right for it. Once the record is established.
And you can't add anything to the record either, then.
That's correct, yes. Can't subtract. Now, well, because I'm going to be arguing a case on April 6th, but that's an issue. What is the record? And you know, the record basically is this first year. That's what it is. And make a decision. Superior Court, they just have to take it. They do have the ability, which it actually does have, to ask for more evidence. They rarely do. What they do is they don't remand it and say, you've got to have another hearing. The remand is on the record. That's what you have to do.
And so if we have insufficient, the court says we have insufficient findings of fact and it's been remanded, we need to go back to the record. Could we determine that the record does not present us with enough information to make findings of fact? If the record is lacking sufficient information and we need to have a new hearing?
Okay, I guess what you do, that situation. And, you know, it's something I said I was going to mention. You have force, you have what we use today, 5 cases. You have to get all. And it's okay if you say, yeah, this application, you know, it's too unique characteristics of the subject. But it's not the least relief necessary. Here's why. Why can't approve this? The question becomes, if you put a condition on that issue, least relief necessary. But maybe say I can't put a condition. So you hit all the standards for one, then the application needs to be done. If the applicant does not have sufficient information that's in the plan, without a choice, which I think is what they do. So we're gonna continue it and allow you to either withdraw and refile, or come back next month because we need this. The classic thing is a hand-drawn map. Is it 8 feet or is it 9 feet? The neighbor gets up and says, hey, those hedges are my hedges, not his hedges. Come back with a survey. That's the classic thing. But if there's insufficient evidence to prove the application, the applicant needs all the standards. And if they don't have that, and you don't have enough facts for that, I think you have to say that. I can't agree that this is due to the characteristics of the lot itself, because no evidence was presented on that, therefore I have to vote no.
So if it's in a case of a remand, we've already made a decision. We had supposed findings of fact. The
Yes.
court said those findings were insufficient. We need to go back and come up with more information from the record. Could we determine that the record is insufficient to make any further findings or to add to those findings?
Okay. And I'm going to get this because it's and I don't think you can see this often, but because you've had experience with this case, I think it'll inform you if you have a situation. Okay. Suppose I voted yes. I didn't think we find this bad, but I voted yes. On the remand, and I voted yes. Then for the reflection of the record, and I thought that there was sufficient evidence here, but change your vote? Yeah. If you voted no, say I looked at the record again. I think there was can you change your vote? Yes, you can. But it's all tied to the record. And if you don't think that there was enough evidence in the record for all of the standards, then you vote no. And you say, this is why I'm voting no. The difficulty is when you have a motion to approve and the findings of fact are there, and the vote is 3-2, so it's denied. The two that vote no, they have to say, I'm voting no, here's why. Go through all the standards. They prove this, that, here's why. This is what I saw in this application. These are the things that you know, I either took a local or whatever it is. Make sure that there's the findings of fact on the negative side. So it's not that somebody's voting no, just thinking about no, but it's a 4-1, they don't have to do it. They have to. And so the next question is, what happens if it's a 2-3 vote? For the application.
2 in favor, 3 against.
2 in favor, 3 against, the 3, they still have to make their findings of fact on that. And make sure it goes to the and that's what happened with this. Now, we're going to go back up to the Board of Defendants again on the record. And we'll see what the report says this time around. The judge that rendered the decision, that was the last decision she made. That was the last decision. We're going to get another judge. Now, I had one case. Where is that? It's buildable lot, representing the town of Lincoln. And it was obvious that, it's buildable lot. The question was where the house was gonna go. On the street that. So the house. So the two nobles, said, move it closer to the street. Go back to DEM. For that, because we didn't make the case on it. And remanded it. If this is coming back to the court, I'm retaining jurisdiction. But we don't have the situation. That's where you go. So just bear in mind, if you're gonna vote no, why you're doing your cheat sheet. Look at the reasons why you can't support it. And just as if you were making the vote yes.
The findings of fact for the support a no vote. How much reliance should be put upon, let's say, neighbors' testimony, which could be just hearsay, versus if the neighbors actually presented like a real estate expert or a surveyor that they hired to say, here's, I'm an expert in property development, and these are the reasons why this is not good for this neighborhood, versus just Mrs. Smith saying, this neighborhood's always been this way, and I don't like the idea that we're going to change it.
There's two cases. The first case is Sullivan Eugene. And in that case, the neighbors got up. Sullivan Eugene had the time. Right. You lot of traffic. It's obvious, there's going to be a lot of traffic. They said, well, the traffic expert said, okay. And, you can't explain testimony. The expert. That's case number one.
But the neighbors could have hired their own traffic.
They would have been what they did. Next case. Is-
How much time did they have to hire?
Down here, so, okay, let me get to this. The next case up is. Yes, that's what area, but you know what? We can develop it in. And I mean, I feel it's helpful. Now, over the air, it's a lot of water. Guys, I know. If a waiver, basis what it's saying, then it can be used. Way that it's for the next one. So I'm gonna take the things. And I did the street right. The street right is going in. And, the approach said, look, everybody knows there's a lot of traffic. That was a good one. They should have said one. I travel on that road to go to work. I'm there at 8:30 going through. There's always a lot of cars. I come back home at 6 o'clock. I can't even get out of the road. I gotta wait for 30 seconds to stop. That's what they should have said. Okay? So when the neighbor comes up to you and says, hey, I did this. But they should be saying, anybody want to ask? Well, I know that sounds insulting. People don't like this thing, but I mean, how many years from now? You gotta ask them that. And if you don't want to ask them, they should say it at least. How do they know? It's the basis. It's like yourself. You know, if you have, you guys live in town. You know what, you know things. If something's going in and an expert says. It's okay for you to say, hey, I'm not. That's not true. And at certain times of the day, but get two weeks. This expert is saying, I know the effects, why? That's what you need to do. You know, and it'll be discounted. Then it will become. My experience. Yeah. Yeah, that's. That's not good.
Those questions that they have to be done in this room, they can't be done exterior of this room.
That's correct. That's correct.
Just makes it hard for us because going through the site, it's been, you know, it's hard not to talk to us. Once to look at the area and talk to, I mean, it's an investigation of nothing, right? See if we're right, if our decision is right, so it's just hard. That's all I'm saying, because without that evidence, or without those questions, so basically what you're saying, when you go to the site, is you write down all the questions you need to ask it.
Well, it's also hard for the butters to know this stuff. You know, they feel that their property value with their traffic or what have you. And they've never been to a zoning board meeting, yeah. What it's about or what to say.
And by the way, this is nice. And thank you very much. So nice, you gave this, did a great job. You start for the family. Well, you were taking it by the government. It's like, no, 14. And they chew here. They chew this over. Oh. I agree. The neighbor gets over, goes, look, I'm worried about you. Put this in, it's a lot of traffic. Okay. And I've been here for 20 years. And to me, it's okay to be polite. It's okay to ask. What is the objective for us? Say that it's not. But if there's issues, you think they have something valuable. Ask the questions right here. Like, you would have had a question. Ask one of the names that came up. You can say, you know, I know he came, I couldn't talk to you. But, you know, these are the questions I have. Well, what questions did you ask me? Well, what about this one? They won't answer here. We're gonna hour.
Good night class, 9 o'clock.
And I don't want to do that, but if there's any specific questions, let me.
Is there anything you think you haven't covered that is a real key point that we ought to understand?
No, I put some back things. Guys haven't had that. Got to tell the patients that. Not gonna go over it. But have a little show. I will understand. The other thing is, you gotta lose some. They have an hour here. And that is, you know, federal act, based on this special religious. Again, when that happens. The other thing is your actual. And here's the final thing that I want to say. You know, I really have a lot of questions. And just tell me all the things that I was. As you can see, I have a little. By the way, that's okay. This case, but actually. Any application. And if you guys call, we'll take that call. Okay? And I really want to make sure that that's the case. That's, and, you know, here's the thing. You don't get it out. You don't, that's it. That's the decision. So, you know, basically said that I was by me. Really, sleep. And, you know, this is great because that is and, you know, it concerns me because I don't want you to think that you can't speak to me away from not answering the questions. You know, I don't want to, I prefer it if you speak to me anytime. Okay. And, you know, ask those questions. And, you know, you get the answer. You know, it's not a problem statement. And that's me, is that's, I, you know, say, I am, you know, Bob, all the other, but I
So if
see.
she doesn't call you, then she doesn't, then you freaking out because she'll do whatever she wants. It's the key.
And cut out, make sure we don't have issues with it. So I want to be clear on that. And, you know, and I'm sorry, because I don't, you don't think that. Man,
He's vicious.
Advice is advice. Now, I had a case, I represent, where, you get cleaner here. It's sick. And, the guy was here. And then he did things because. And the applicant stuff. And, the defense was. Was the advice right? And you guys read advice.
just from another, like, define a phrase for me. From a recusal standpoint, what qualifies as substantial conflict?
Okay, you know, I skipped over that. And I should. Do you have a business relationship? Does an immediate family member have a business relationship? Do you have a business relationship with an immediate family member? That's what it comes down to.
The applicant or anyone involved in the application?
Who else?
Could be like the architect. Like if I, let's say bring in a traffic engineer, that my firm also uses the same traffic engineer for other projects.
Or if the architect for a project is an architect that has hired our lighting design firm in the past,
Yes.
but we have no interest in that contract.
I got ask a question. You have a current ongoing business.
Yeah, with a bunch of architects in the state, yeah.
Ongoing.
Meaning we have current active contracts with them.
Okay, got it confused. Here's the next thing, all right? You don't have any contract. But you know that that's an ongoing business. And in the future, you don't get work with them and refuse. Okay. If you have these specific questions, I don't know. Now, the stickier thing is, you know, what? He refused.
If you are the property owner of an abutting property, you must recuse.
Yes.
Because you have a financial interest in your property.
Yeah, by the way, I don't see that. I don't see that would be the case. But, the ethics commission.
So if you're in that radius, where they inform you that you can go to the meeting and be, you know, then you should recuse yourself.
So, put that down, ladies.
We actually had one, it was on the appeal we had on Long Lead. My son owns all the property surrounding it. So because I'm next of kin, because he's not
Yeah.
married, I had to recuse
Yes.
because I have a vested interest.
Yeah, that is the definition of the meeting.
I also had a situation where an immediate family member was not considered if my sister is my